Hi, Wilna here, and welcome to the very last lesson of this class, Painting 6. And for this one, we're also painting a little vase. I must say, to paint freehand takes a little bit of practice. For some people, it's just easier than for others. But you know what? I've just been doing it for a very long time, so I guess that's why it might look a little easier, when I do it. So I'm just speeding up this part of the video, and you know what? After narrating 5 other hour-long videos, and with basically doing the same thing, right? I am a little weary of words, so I decided to narrate this last video as if it's the one and only one that I'm going to be doing for this class. So I might repeat myself, and that's okay. So I'm just going to pretend that you started with the last one first, So I'm just going to talk about it as if I haven't done one video. Okay. So the first thing that you do want to do is just mix your paint for the drawing. I call this the painting drawing, and it's actually a very good exercise in drawing. And I'm using a long stem paintbrush. I think it just gives a little bit of balance when you do it freehand. It really helps a lot. And then the ink that I'm using is Liquitex acrylic inks, and I'm just mixing Prussian blue and a little bit of black. So if you have a limited budget, I would really just suggest that you buy black, white, Prussian blue, and maybe the magenta color. Those are really the most colors that I use the most. So, but that's just me personally. You might find that you use other ones, but I can only recommend what I use, right? And what I love. So hopefully that's why you take the class. So if you watch the drawing video, then you'll see exactly how to transfer the drawing onto your canvas with the carbon paper, and then also how to just paint over it with your paintbrush. This is probably a size 4 Royal and Langnickel paintbrush, and then just paint over it with the ink mixture. And I like to pour mine out in a little paper cup, and that way I can add a tiny bit of water so that when I paint, the paint is fluid, So that is how simple it is just to do the paint drawing. What I also like to do is to vary my line width, so that the lines are very interesting. And then just because I'm not painting on an easel, I'm just letting the colors flow a little bit, just because my painting is rather flat on a surface, so the paint's not really flowing like I like it. So I guess if you've seen some of my paintings, then you know how much I love it when the paint drip. Okay, and for the background, we're going to be painting it with a big flat brush and then beautiful turquoise deep acrylic paint. So again, if you only have a couple of dollars and you don't have a big budget, I would really get this color, turquoise deep. It's probably my absolute favorite acrylic paint color, and if I were abandoned, is it were or was? Sorry, people, my grammar, I know. To an island, I will probably take a paintbrush, a canvas, and this color. Just being honest. So I'm just going to add water to my paint. And you can see how I'm putting the water on the side of the paint and working it into the paint, almost to tint the water. And this is called a wash. So I'm just working the water into the paint a little bit so that I can get maybe a more opaque or a color dense wash. And then I'm just wetting my brush. Now, you know that your brush is wet enough, when you tilt your canvas and the water just flows, then you know you're using enough water. You know, when I teach art journaling classes in real person, I'm always surprised at how scared people are to get water on their canvas. So get enough water on your canvas. I love to use paper plates, so that way, you know, I can make a mess and throw it away. That's just personal preference. But you can see there how the water is just dripping down. That means that there's enough water on my brush, and I even just use water straight from my water bottle and paint it into the blue. So the reason for this background wash is just to get something on the canvas, because a blank canvas is probably the most intimidating thing on earth, you know. So that's just a little tip. Once this is dry, we're going to start painting our flowers. Now I'm just starting with white paint, and then I'm going to drip a couple of drops of quinacridone magenta on it, and this will make a beautiful pink color. So you can see that bottle is actually on this quinacridone magenta. So this bottle is at the end of its life, so the paint dripper can't reach the tiny bit at the bottom of the bottle. That's why I opened it and poured it out. And now you just want to mix it in with a paintbrush, just because you're mixing a liquid with a heavy body acrylic. That's why I will just use the paintbrush that I'm going to be painting with. You can also see the richness of the color that you mix there. The acrylic ink holds a tremendous amount of pigment, so it's lovely, you know, how rich the color is when you mix it in with white paint. And then I'm just going to add a tiny drop of yellow to both. You can see I added more white, and now I'm just adding a tiny bit of yellow. And when you put yellow with magenta, you just get a beautiful warm pink there, like that. So now I'm painting on my drawing, and I'm trying not to paint over the lines. So I'm staying within the lines, but I'm painting away some of the lines, and part of the width of the line, but you can still see the edges of the flower. And I actually like it that way. I also love adding a little bit of extra paint to get an impasto look, you know. So when you paint your flowers, the hardest part for me usually is just to decide what color goes where and to get enough of a variety of colors. So I will maybe have this white, and then I'll add more paint to it to get a little bit of pink, you know, darker pink, different shades of pink. And now I'm just adding a tiny bit of extra of the paint to the flower to get a beautiful impasto look, you know. So you can absolutely see the consistency of the paint in heavy body paints mean that it just, when you put it down, it doesn't move, it just stays there, which I love. Okay, so now I'm going to use some naphtha red, and not yet. Just going to mix in the yellow with that beautiful pink, and just paint a couple of flowers. So the quinacridone magenta ink is definitely one of the colors that I would get, along with the Prussian blue. You know what? Prussian blue, the paint will be of more value than the ink maybe. So you know what, I will talk about it in the supply video or in my hello video, and I'll talk about if I could pick 3 colors of every shade, which one I would pick. Okay, so now I'm just adding some naphtha red And I'm adding some pale red ink to it to make it just a little more redder, make it more red. And I'm just mixing it in with a paintbrush. And I'm going to use this color just to add a little bit of impasto to the flower here. You can see that the paint is actually quite transparent, because when you put it on, you paint it on, you can see the layer underneath it. You know, it doesn't cover everything up, but I will use more than one layer. So in the end, you know, you'll see how you can make it actually quite opaque. Opaque is when nothing underneath shows through, so very dense. Okay, so you know what, making the decisions for which color goes where is the hardest. So when you paint with me, I would have made these decisions for you, which is awesome. That color there is alizarin crimson. Oh, that means that it's absolutely one of my favorite colors. It's one of those colors when you paint on top of it, when you paint over a naphtha red with this color, it just gives it so much depth. You know, it's a beautiful color to to just add a lot of depth to your painting. And if you mix, I'm tongue-tied, people. If you mix alizarin crimson and Prussian blue, you get a beautiful black. So that's what Tia tells me. So you have to taste it and tell me. So remember to, like, that's what I meant. If you paint over, but the other red should be dry. I'm talking to myself now, because otherwise you just make your colors dirty. So let the paintings dry. So maybe work on 2 or 3 at the same time, you know. That's kind of what you should be doing anyway. Okay, so I'm going to play you a little bit of music and you can just watch what I do, because I'm sure by now you've had enough of my funny accent and the sound of my voice. Well, hopefully not, but anyway, I'm going to play you some music. that's basically how I approach my paintings. Like I would have a color palette and paint, you know, the same color a few spots just to bring a little bit of balance to the painting. And then you can also see that I painted some of the flowers white because I wanted to clean it up when I paint purple over it later, just adding a little bit of detail already in that painting, in that flower. And the reason for that is because I have the white available on my palette. Mixing in a little bit of deep violet with white gives you this beautiful lavender color. So I'm just going to be painting, and I don't know if it's lavender, the flowers, but it does feel like it, right? So I love this little painting. It's one of my favorites, and I've hung it up in my, I don't even know if that's the right grammar, forgive me, but it's hanging in my kitchen wall, which I absolutely love, and I see it every day. So I really truly adore it. Okay, so obviously what happened here was my camera stopped filming, so I missed a little bit of the green painting in the green leaves and things, so I apologize for that. But you can see my palette there on the side, and the color I'm using is that beautiful phthalo green. And you know what, I just love the green palette that I have, the viridian hue, the beautiful sap green, hooker green, and you can mix any of those with a little yellow and a little bit of white, and you can make, a new shade of green, which is so cool. And now I'm just using Prussian blue, and I'm just painting the background of this painting. And this is what I'm going to be doing basically for the rest of this video, is just painting the background. And I'm just being careful, to leave a little bit of space between, even if it's just a millimeter, between the actual flowers and the background color. And sometimes I like to do that just because it gives the illusion that there's light coming from behind, the flowers. So use a thin brush and just be patient when you do this part of the painting. painting with a little pale red directly out of the little bottle, ink bottle, with the acrylic inks on the alizarin crimson. That's what I meant earlier, how wonderful that looks. It's such a beautiful, rich dimension that it gives. So that's why pale red is one of those colors that I really would recommend you get. And now I'm just going to mix a little bit of mint. It's almost like a mint color. You can actually use a little bit of that beautiful mint color, and I'm just going to be painting. Oh, that should not happen. And I mean, I'm all for having little accidents happening on your canvas, but not that kind. So baby wipes, thank you. If you've never seen my April Fool's video on YouTube called Wilna's Best 10 Tips for Scrapbooking, then maybe go and watch that. But just remember, it's a joke, people. You know, there are 255 dislikes on that video, more than 35,000 views. So there's 255 people in this world that didn't know it was just a joke, you know. But anyway, and there I actually sing the praises of baby wipes. So that's why I thought about that. So I'm just using a little broader brush, some more beautiful Prussian blue, and I'm just going to, how can I put this? The background is not smooth enough for me, you know? So I'm just smoothing it out a little bit more by adding another layer of paint. So that's the best way I can describe it. And it's weird because sometimes the background, I don't mind it being textured, but sometimes I don't want it to look, I don't know, how disorganized. It's weird. It's a weird term. It just doesn't feel like it should be in a painting, hey? But anyway, so this is white, a little bit of aqua, teal color, and then this beautiful lime green. And I'm just going to mix it in, and that will give me that beautiful mint color. So make sure that you use a clean brush and just mix it in. And it has a blue tone, but it's a really beautiful color. And I'm just going to paint a little bit of the background. And maybe that's what I like the most about this painting, is that lovely color painted around those leaves. You know, if I take just a 4 inches by 4 inches crop, then that will be my favorite part of the painting. It's just how the paint goes around those 4 leaves where I'm painting right now. I just love it. Okay, so this is it basically for this video 1 of painting 6, and then in the next video we will finish up this painting, and we will also finish up the workshop. So I'm actually a little sad that it's ending, but the good news is you can rewatch the videos over and over again while you are painting with me, right? Okay, so just even a smaller brush, and I'm just going around the edges and just blending in this beautiful light color with the background just by using tiny brush strokes. And then I'm just going to do it on this side as well. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.